Hey everyone, we're back with another week of Find Your Film. This is a very interesting week. We have two featured movies, and then we have a whole bunch of recommendations from Bruce Purkey, co-host Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes. If you're watching our YouTube, by the way, our YouTube show, the video version of our podcast is featured on the Deepest Dream channel. So I'll have a link on the show descriptions. But the cool thing about watching the video version is you get to see all of the really fun monikers that Bruce and Eric and sometimes I come up with. This week, Eric Holmes is called Lord Eric's, E-R-I capital X. Eric Holmes, what is that? I went through a lot of, does this have something to do with Billy Wilder, Eric Holmes?
It may have something to do with him. It's very possible. Well, I guess we'll just have to go on and see for ourselves.
Okay, that is actually, what's funny is Eric Holmes was actually trying to do an impression of one of the characters we're going to spotlight this week, and he wasn't actually doing an impression. That's Eric Holmes's real voice. Moving on, we have Irma La Douce or Ima La Douce. It's Ima La Douce. Very good. That is okay. That is a reference to what, Bruce Purkey? What do you want to actually say what it's a reference to, or you're just
what? I'm a De Bruce.
I'm a De Bruce. Well, here's the thing.
It's IMDb. I am a De Bruce.
I am a De Bruce. Bruce Purkey. I'm a De Bruce. Bruce on IMDb. But actually, I'm gonna let the cat out of the bag. And one of the movies we'll be spotlighting is on Bruce Purkey's segment for What's in the Box. It is Irma La Douce, directed by the late and great Billy Wilder, and Eric Holmes will be talking also about Irma La Douce because he's seen it, and maybe he might do the voice of Lord Eric's, E-R-I-X, during the review of that film, as he's making some again. If you look at our YouTube, folks, Eric Holmes is making a very scary face, and again, that is his normal face, folks. Oh, there he goes. Nightmares, Bruce. Also, there's going to be a whole bunch of movies. Eric, and first, Bruce, did you see just a lot of movies the last week? I thought you're busy. What's going on? How many did you see?
I'd have to go through all of them. I saw 8 or 9.
8 or 9. And this is a guy who has a full-time job and a family. What is the key to actually watching 8 or 9 films when you have a full-time job and you have 2 kids and you're a family man? What is there? How do you schedule it in? That's all I'm gonna say.
Neglect. Lots of neglect.
I thought that was a cheat code. Again, yes, he's cheating. He's cheating by cheating the time of family quality time with cinema. I actually endorse that. Eric Holmes, how many movies did you top Bruce Purkey's thing? How many movies did you see this week? Did you know, like 5, 6?
Yeah, probably about that. Maybe.
Oh.
I
Okay.
don't know. I always watch movies early on in the week, and I don't write them down, so I forget about them. But they're usually movies I've seen before, so it doesn't really matter too much.
Are you exactly as neglectful emotionally and spiritually as Bruce Purkey with his familia? Do you neglect your friends and family by watching way too many movies per week?
No.
Find your film and for your own addiction.
Well, so there's certain movies I watch for the podcast, and then there's other movies like someone will be downstairs watching something, and I'll just kind of wander in. It's like, oh, what's this? And then that's another thing. Can't talk about the movie because 1, I didn't see the whole thing, and 2, I don't even know what it's called because I walked in halfway through.
So it says, yeah, sometimes you'll, and also our buddy Anderson Cowan, I just realized on our sister show Cinematics, he was saying that there are times when he'll just watch a movie and absolutely, Bruce, to this point, he'll be 20 minutes into a movie and absolutely just give up on it. Do you guys ever do that? Because he does that once a week. Do you guys ever give up on movies after 20 or 25 minutes? Anderson does that. And I thought that was a very interesting thing, because if you give up on a movie 20 minutes in and you do it weekly, that's about an 80 to 90 minute movie that you're actually watching. All different stories. Yeah. Have you guys ever done that? Do you guys ever do that? Or do you follow it through and watch the entire movie no matter how bad it is?
Not in theaters. I mean, around home, I do it all the time. I'll put on something. And it's like, not quite what I was thinking it was, and then just move on to the next thing. In the movie theater, I did it once, and it was for a Nic Cage movie. What was that one where he's the pilot? It was one of those Christian movies.
Oh, right. What is that?
The
Yes,
last something. I
Place.
can't
I'll
remember.
look it up. I'll look it up. I'll look it up. Left Behind? Is that it? Is
Yes.
that yeah,
Yeah,
Left
Left
Behind.
Behind.
Oh,
So
you left behind the
He left
movie.
it behind.
Yeah,
You
so
left it behind,
I
right?
went to the movie theater. I just saw a poster before COVID. What I would do is I'd go to the movie theater around noon and then just kind of plot out, because you got all the times kind of plot out. Okay, this one starts at noon. It's an hour and a half. By the time this one gets over, I'll have like 15 minutes before that one starts. So I kind of plot out the day. Usually watch like 3 movies in a day at a movie theater. And I saw Left Behind there. And I'm a Nicolas Cage fan. I was pretty surprised that I didn't know what that was. And so I'm like, well, that's the first one I'm going to watch. And I bought the ticket and I'm watching it. And I get like about 15 minutes into it until I realize, oh, this is one of those Christian propaganda movies. And I tried to stick it out. I couldn't do it. I was like, you know what? Screw this. And I just walked out. And that was the one and only time I've done it.
Wow, I think there's a rift in the show right now. I'm Catholic, and Left Behind might be my favorite movie of all time. I don't know how to survive from there. Bruce, are you gonna? I'm quitting. Can you be me and you for the rest of the podcast? Because Left Behind. What?
No one could fill your shoes, Craig.
Okay, as he laughs heartily. So do you do that too, Bruce? Do you
Sure.
sometimes?
Just same thing online. One I can think of recently is I did see A Piece of a Woman, but I didn't see The Pieces of a Woman. So
okay, Bruce Purkey throwing some punny stuff there. By the way, he loves Shudder and he loves horror films. And look, that's a perfect moniker to actually throw in the puns. So Pieces of a Woman wasn't a good movie. Would you? Was it?
I just fell off of it. I just was like, I got about 25. I got through the opening sequence, which is the harrowing opening sequence everyone talks about, and I was just like, I'm out.
And then, well, there's also like I was wondering if you guys did this. You'll watch put a movie on and it's late. And it's like, wow, you obviously stop it and usually get back. I was like, I'll get back to it tomorrow. And then a week goes by, and then 2 weeks go by, and then a couple years go by, and all of a sudden it's like, yeah, I've seen the first 20 minutes of that movie, but I should probably get back to it.
Well,
I've done it. I've gone back to movies like months later and finished it before.
That's so funny. Do you remember one that you've out of the top of your head, Bruce, that you can
actually recall? The Headhunter was one that I had started, and then Eric talked about it, and I was like, oh yeah, I started that movie and I never watched it all. And I went back and watched it. I was very happy. So that's a perfect example. It was like that was at least 6 months that I had started it and forgotten about it.
I think Napoleon Dynamite was one of them where because I would work the overnight shift and I get off and everyone's telling me how great Napoleon Dynamite is, and I'm still trying to figure that one out. But anyway, I watch like the first 20 minutes and then I pass out because it's right after I get off work. And then I wake up, go to work, come back, and then start from the beginning. When we start from the beginning, watch the whole thing. After about 4 days of that, I'm like, I'm just starting where I left off. And it took me about a week to finish it.
It's amazing.
Not a fan, but that first 15 minutes I know quite well because I watched it like 4 or 5 times.
Wow. There's a movie on that theme. There's a movie that we're going to be covering that I'm going to go back and finish, but I'm going to finish it begrudgingly because I am completely mixed on this movie. And we're going to be talking about said movie in this podcast. A little bit of a teaser. Couple more teasers that we have for you guys is there's a documentary we covered last week. It's a quote unquote a neo-noir documentary called The Penny Black. It's directed by William J. Saunders. William J. Saunders was cool enough to actually hit us up. I think Eric Holmes and Bruce, I think I'm an old man. I think the term is DM. He DM'd us on our Find Your Film Instagram, and he actually, well, Eric, you know what it's, am I right? DM means direct message. Am I correct?
I was just gonna hop in and say, Greg, why don't you tell the listeners how they can slide into your DMs?
Yes, I don't want listeners. I'm going to tell you something. We talk about horror shows with Bruce Purkey and Eric Holmes at the helm with Giallo and all these wonderful movies they introduce. If you want a real horror show, definitely slide into my DMs because that'll be a nightmare. You don't ever DM me, folks, because I'm a nightmare of a human being. I talk good movie, but that's other than that, I'm horrible. Eric Holmes, what a horrible suggestion on your part. How dare you? But you know what's cool? The Penny Black director, William J. Saunders, will be joining us for the first segment of Find Your Film next week. If you have not seen the Penny Black yet, we will actually have the link in our show notes. It is definitely, I think it's really worth a watch. Bruce Purkey, what do you say? Eric, endorse?
Yes, and
Endorse, yes.
I'm also looking forward to talking with them because I don't know if we can put it to bed or not, but I would like to put it to bed on whether this was actually a documentary or not. And maybe we will, maybe we won't. Maybe he'll, as you mentioned off air, maybe he'll hold those cards close to his vest.
Yeah, Bruce, are you gonna grill him?
Guess we'll just have to wait and see.
Yeah, we'll have to wait and see. Bruce, are you gonna grill him? What are you gonna do? Because you're the guy, you're the enforcer. Are you gonna throw some?
I'll butter him up, and then
I'll slide into his DMs. No, cut that.
Okay, William J. Saunders has now left the chat. Hopefully he'll still be here. Thank you, Mr. Saunders. We all love your documentary. Come to our show next weekend. And most importantly, listeners, check out The Penny Black. Tell us what you think of this movie. Our final little plug before we get into our main movies. By the way, our main movies this week is this Netflix film called SkaterGirl, which I probably was in a previous life. And the other movie is called Censor. We'll get to that shortly. But Bruce Purkey, can you tell our listeners what to expect? I guess within several days, this weekend, what are we going to do as part of our Find Your Film special?
We will do a director's spotlight on Peter Strickland, British director. He's been making movies for, I guess, about 10 years or so. His two most recent movies, which are The Duke of Burgundy and In Fabric.
Okay, so that'll be our director spotlight. We haven't done one in a spell just because of scheduling stuff, but I'm really excited. I'm cramming. I'll probably see him Thursday or Friday night. Eric Holmes, what you saw these? Did you see both these movies? What, a couple of weeks ago, or are you cramming too?
I will watch them tonight and tomorrow.
Oh, that's not cramming. And Bruce, you didn't rewatch them, did you? Because you've seen them a couple times already. You're okay.
I haven't yet. I will probably watch at least one of them. I'll at least watch The Duke of Burgundy again because I haven't seen that for about a year. In Fabric, I watched in the last 2 months. I may or may not go back to it again, but I might.
Even if you don't go back to it again, what the thing about In Fabric is it leaves, there's some images that are indelible, right? That's one of the things that it's a memorable movie as far as you're concerned.
Yeah, it's very stylishly odd and narratively very odd. And remember, I get her name right. She was in Dumb Santa, Baptiste.
Yeah, I know Marianne Jean Baptiste.
Yes, she.
Dumb Santa. I'm sorry. What was that? Okay, no, go. Keep on going. I'll let you pass.
Grumpy Rambo. I don't know.
Okay. By the way, that was I remember this. Do you remember this, Eric Holmes? Bruce Purkey announced that, I think it was called Fat Santa. Is that the movie? That's the movie Fat Santa, right? Right, Eric?
Man.
Am I Fat
Man?
See, you don't even know what it was called.
Oh my God.
I'm sorry. And Rubbin.
Okay. I actually love this movie, and I can't believe I butchered the name. Bruce Purkey's having a bad influence on me. Bruce Purkey said Fat Man is the worst movie from last year. Can you believe that? Can you believe that, Eric Holmes? No, you can't believe it. Anyways, I'm not outing you because I'm sure some people felt that way. I loved it. Eric Holmes, did you like it? You enjoyed it, right? You enjoyed it?
Yeah.
Okay.
I've actually watched it a couple times since we reviewed it.
Here we go. And I can guarantee you that Bruce is not. But the actress is Marianne Jean Baptiste, and she's great in this, right? In Fabric?
Yes, she's great in Fabric. She has a much more central role in Fabric, and I think you will be very happy to see her along with, well, I don't know if you'll be happy to see the movie, but you'll be happy to see her in it. She's really good.
Well, she's always good. In fairness, all jest aside, she's always good in whatever I've seen her. I'm sure everyone co-signs on this. So that is, we will be doing that director spotlight, and we'll have it up for you guys maybe later this weekend, at the latest early next week on a Monday. Okay, so our first movie that we're covering for our featured review, film release date is June 11th. Comes out on Netflix. I was so excited about this because I know deep down in their heart, Eric Holmes and Bruce Purkey might be punk rock at heart. Eric Holmes, are you punk rock at heart, heavy metal at heart, or you just rock at heart? What do you
I like music.
He loves music. Maybe I was thinking maybe deep down inside, maybe both of them in another life might have been a SkaterGirl. SkaterGirl is the first movie we're covering. It debuts again June 11th on Netflix. It's considered a quote unquote coming of age story of this young girl, young teen. Her name is Purna, played by Rachel Sanchita Gupta. It's her first performance, and she's fantastic in this. She's just very natural. It's like neorealism. They just took this person out of just her element, and they actually put her as the star of this movie. She's very natural in this movie. In my opinion, she's the strongest part of this film. And the movie is set in a remote village in Rajasthan, India. And Prerna, she grows up in a household, and she has big dreams for her life. The only problem is she can't go to school because her family, they're just trying to make ends meet. Her father wants her to get married, and she doesn't even have the right clothes to go to school. What happens is when an advertising executive named Jessica from just arrives out of the blue, played by Amy Magera. She arrives into this village in India, in Rajasthan, and she actually ingratiates herself with the people in the village. And what happens is, it's not giving too much away because the movie's called SkaterGirl. Jessica comes up with this idea along with a buddy of hers who I like to call the buddy. It says quote unquote her old friend. I like to call this guy, played by Jonathan Redwin. I'm just gonna call him Friend Zone because he's just a nice, harmless guy. He's me. That's not a pejorative. I'm a friend zone kind of guy. I don't mind being friend zone. I'm 50. I'm okay. But these two people who basically, this Indian village is foreign to them. They decide to actually, and this is Jessica's idea, is to build a skate park right outside the village, because what happens is they ultimately gift a lot of these youths who live in the village skateboards. And that is SkaterGirl. And then this is what happens. A lot of the movie deals with Perna's coming of age as far as growing up and learning her love for skateboarding, but then also trying to balance that out and trying to be a good daughter. Unfortunately, her father is a total dick. That's not giving too much away. He's a total a-hole. And then that's it. That's a whole premise of SkaterGirl. Let's start with you, Eric Holmes. Your thoughts on SkaterGirl. I'm sure you had a lot of feelings, emotions, opinions about this movie.
Yeah. Well, first of all, this movie is completely saccharine. It doesn't really get dark at all, and it's kind of oh gee gosh, kind of one of those type of movies. The movie I watched before this, which we'll get into later, I was kind of totally down for that mood. So this kind of worked for me. And I also liked a lot of what it kind of, some of the stuff the movie says about trying things. Like, so there's a part where the guy comes in and they have a name for their homemade skateboard. It was like a cart truck or something. They had a different name for it. They didn't call it skateboard. But then the one guy comes out and he's got like a skateboard, and they're like, oh, cool, what's that? And then he starts doing a bunch of tricks, and they're like, wow, that's cool. And he's like, you try it. And it's like, well, I can't do that. And she gets on it, slips, falls, and it's like, I can't do it. And they kind of push the idea of, you don't have to be like me. You don't have to be as good. You might get there one day, but the idea is have fun with it and then make it your own. Even to the point when they had the skate competition, there was a little emphasis on the tricks that they were doing, but most of the emphasis on the skate competition was the passion and the style they use, which
right.
Not being that, I've never been that great of a skater to begin with, so I don't know what that would entail. But I like the idea that it kind of, I don't know what the word I'm looking for is, but it's kind of pushes the idea of do your own thing. You'll get better. Your technique will get better, but make it your own. Find your own voice in whatever it is. In this case, skateboarding, and I dug that a lot. And also kind of, I got a little misty-eyed at the end. And, this movie played me like a fiddle, and I knew it was doing it, but I didn't give a fuck. I was just like, okay, do it. Bring all the stupid emotions. And yeah, I would recommend this. I would also say that there's certain people that don't like movies where that kind of push your buttons as obvious as this one does, but I was just totally in the mood for it, so I just let that go. If you don't like those type of movies, stay far away from this. But like, if you get maybe you just got done watching I don't know, maybe you just got done watching Eraserhead and you're like, I need to come back down. Like, this is a movie you watch after you watch a movie that just fucking tripped you out and you need to come down. This is like a perfect movie for that sort of thing.
Again, I I would recommend this movie as well. Going back to the performance of Rachel Sanchita Gupta, debut performance, she is so winning in this movie. I would recommend to people who really want to see a feel-good movie that has something to say about following your dreams and getting up when you fall and fail, all that stuff. Some really good stuff. And I did get a little bit misty-eyed, but I'm going to go to Bruce Purkey right now. Bruce, I'm going to go to you because I have a huge caveat regarding my recommendation with SkaterGirl that actually pretty much frustrates me. I still recommend this movie, but there's something that I actually want to nitpick about this movie. But Bruce would want to hear your thoughts on SkaterGirl.
Yeah, I'm in line with a lot of what you guys said. I'm definitely agree that Rachel, who plays Prerna, I think I got her name right. She's amazing. She's really photogenic. She has an amazing charisma, and you definitely immediately want to follow her and follow what she's going on. I think that the way they present the life in the village, it's really rich. It's really full. You get a really good feel of life there. And I really like the idea of the message that Eric is talking about. My big gripe, other than it's really saccharine, which if that's not your vibe, this is definitely not going to be your thing. It's almost more of almost like a Disney teen kind of level of kind of movie, I guess, as far as that goes. The thing that really bothered me is how we get to the message. And the way we get to the message is kind of the real like trope of the kind of the white savior. I would have loved to have followed Prerna in her world, finding her way to the realization she gets at the end of this movie. And it wouldn't have to be done by having a white guy and a westernized Indian woman come in and buy them all skateboards and say, whoa, be yourselves. We're going to save you from your life, which is kind of the way it comes down in this movie. And it's like they even want to pat themselves on the back and say, look, during the production of this, we made the only skate park in the area. And it's like, okay, that's nice. But I mean, is that what they need? A skate park? I mean, maybe one kid needs a skate park. I don't know. It just seemed really, it seemed like a lot of it was kind of that Western point of view of going in like, hey, we know what your problem is. We're going to give you the way out. Hey, thumbs up.
Again, Bruce, you're really offending me because we get back to me being a Catholic and then this whole thing about Left Behind being my number one movie. My number one genre film actually isn't mystery thrillers or Westerns. Here's a twist. My number one genre is white savior films. I only like
That's
white
good.
savior films. And how dare you, Bruce, to compare this? Because no problems on my end with the white savior or westernized savior. Let's get that correct because Jessica is half Indian. Yeah. We're not going to talk about her connection to Rajasthan as well. I'm totally kidding on that. I see your point, Bruce. And I was thinking the same thing. Eric Holmes, were you thinking the same thing? Did you have a gripe with that? Or it's like one of these? Okay.
No, I didn't even consider that at all. But I mean, now that Bruce brings it up, it's absolutely there. I just saw it as two cultures kind of trying to, similar to White Tiger. There was bits in the main guy's culture that the westernized girl was privy to. And she's like, no, we're not doing that. It's like, but you're a woman. This is how you are treated around here. It's like, I don't give a fuck if you don't treat me like that. So I just saw this as two cultures meeting and coming together and making something great out of it. Granted, they probably need more than the skate park there, but
it's all we need, man. It's all better now.
At the same time, at least as it's presented in the movie, I think what they needed was people's minds being open to certain ideas, and I think the skateboard did bring that. And to the fact that the was it the Queen of the Village, the woman that actually funded the whole thing, she kind of saw that. Her character saw that and was like, yeah, there's this would be good for the community. And so I mentioning the white savior thing, I see it now, but I didn't pick up on it while I was watching it. I just saw it as something different.
Let me sell you the different version of the same story, still just a saccharine, but to me would work better would be, you have Prerna, you follow her, you're really centered on her, which you are pretty much in this movie, but even more so. Like, that's something about White Tiger. You're really in his world. He's narrating it, everything. You know his point of view. And it's also, he's really richly complex. But you're right here centered with her. And she on her own, I mean, she gets access to the internet or whatever. She becomes fascinated with skate culture. She makes her own skateboards. She inspires the other kids to kind of start this thing, and they kind of become rebellious within their own world, and she finds her own like strength through that, as opposed to someone else that's buying them skateboards and building them a skate park and saying woohoo, instant freedom.
Having that character have a little bit more agency, I get that. Listeners, whether you agree with Bruce or Eric, I mean, there's different ways to look at this whole thing, but at the bottom line, you do recommend this movie just based on a base level of
I would recommend it for a younger crowd, especially, or if you really like those kind of feel good, almost like Disney level, like a little bit saccharine kind of movies. It's not good. It's harmless. I say that way. As long as you're aware of that's this kind of tilt, I would recommend it mildly to those people. For me, it's not really my cup of tea, you know.
Okay, but at least you got slight recommend from Bruce.
Yeah.
Recommend from Eric.
Oh, I actually,
slight recommend.
My recommendation would be exactly the same as Bruce's.
Okay, slight recommend.
It's just I liked it more. I took to it more than Bruce did.
So recommend.
But same thing. If you're not into saccharine, stay the fuck away from this because you will not like it. But if you do like feel good movies, this is a great feel good movie, and definitely check it out.
This is a really cool feel good movie. I recommend this to people who really want something, a boost of feel goodness in their lives. But going to main gripes, I see you, Bruce Purkey, on your gripe. I'm going to throw in my major gripe. I wanted exactly like what Eric was saying regarding the white tiger, and Bruce was saying, Pirna, just follow her story. Her story is interesting enough, and then make it claustrophobic where you see everything through her eyes. That's my number one thing. My number two thing is when they drop in that Jessica, that advertising executive who has a tie. She's half Indian. She has a tie to the village. She was raised in London, played by Amy Magera. Nothing wrong with her performance. She's fine. I was fine with her subplot. It felt extraneous because you're so invested in Pirna, and you're going, whoa, here's another story that just drops in out of the freaking clouds. Why do they need this? That said, I was fine with the story. Ultimately, I thought it should have been really focused on Pirna over Jessica, and maybe make Jessica even less incidental. But what happened is the filmmakers, they spend so much time on Jessica's story as a subplot that at the end of the movie, they bury her subplot. She becomes the ending of the movie. The third act becomes a race against time regarding the skating competition. And this extraneous plot, I actually, at the end of the movie, I wanted sort of a little bit more explanation regarding Jessica's own relationship to the village and how it affected her, because then they suddenly just throw this extraneous subplot out the window. So I don't
think they trusted a Western audience to not have these avatars for them. I don't think they trusted the Western audience to just follow Pirna.
Right. Exactly. But again, that said, I wish they ended up and there's a throwaway line that the Queen has regarding her conversation with Jessica, and we're not going to get into it because Jessica is the one who's pitching the skate park. Like Eric was saying, she's pitching the skate park idea to the Queen of the village, and the Queen makes an offhanded remark that you're going, what? And that's not even followed up. And
I don't remember the remark.
Well, the remark was saying about the Queen was saying, "Oh, one of these days you're going to hear my story on the village."
She was just doing her homage of that mustache guy from that we'll talk about later.
No. I do remember the line now, and it reminded me of I'm wearing my Star Wars shirt, so this is perfect. The first JJ Star Wars, The Force Awakens, where it's like, oh, but that's a story for another time. 2 movies later, and they never touch on it.
But that's the story. Well, we're going to talk about another story for another time with Mr. Mustache or Mustache.
Real quick though, the gripe you have, Greg, and the gripe Bruce has, you're both absolutely right. I just said that like none of that even occurred to me while I was watching it. No, but you're both absolutely right in your takes on that.
Yeah, we have a whole bunch of we have a couple of gripes for SkaterGirl. Ultimately, there's a recommendation from all three of us. And again, if you are of the ilk who really wants a movie that'll make you feel good and you like these type of films, go with SkaterGirl, and also lead with the performance of Rachel Sanchita Gupta. Fantastic in the movie. June 11th on Netflix. Now, Bruce and Eric, they've been alluding to a second movie. Actually, I think Eric has been really alluding to this second film. It's a movie called Censor. And yeah, the movie Censor, here's the thing. I thought it was going to be on demand. I did a little bit. It's not a boo-boo. It's on demand June 18th, but it's in theaters on June 11th. I don't even know where to start. It centers on a film editor, and her name is Enid. She's actually very strict, and she's very, I guess, fastidious. She's very diligent on what to censor. She looks at horror films, I guess, from the maybe guys, I'm thinking maybe the 1980s when there was VHS was really, maybe at the latest early 90s, but I'm thinking this is like a 1980s set film where she's going through VHS tapes with her colleagues, censoring really graphic scenes of understandably rape and dismemberment and everything. That's her job. The only problem with Enid, by the way, Enid is played by Niamh Algar, Niamh Algar. You might have seen her recently in the Jason Statham film, Guy Ritchie directed film, Wrath of Man. She's very memorable in that as well. She's good in that, but she's more memorable in this as the editor Enid. What happens is Enid, as an editor, she's so focused on her work. She loves it so much that she blurs cinema with reality, something all three of us here at Find Your Film are want to do as well. But the thing is, Enid has a family tragedy regarding her, I believe, her younger sister, or basically her sister. Her sister might have disappeared. She might have died. There's a lot of, she's blurring her reality and the tragedy regarding her sibling along with the movies that she's currently editing. That is the premise of Censor. What happens when cinema and reality and tragedy merge into one cohesive whole? You get the plot line behind Censor. Eric Holmes, this movie is directed by Prano Bailey Bond, and Prano also co-wrote this film with Anthony Fletcher. Did this movie grab you, Eric Holmes, or were you cold on the ultimate execution of Censor?
Certain aspects of it did. So first of all, I hated the main character, and not because it was poorly written, not because the actor was bad, but because of who her character was. She's indignant. I have a pass, and that makes it okay for me to decide what you get to do, which is essentially what censorship is. It's a very condescending job to do. You know what? I'd say more, but honestly, Greg and Bruce, I don't think you two are ready to hear this. I'm gonna make that choice for you because I've had a pass and I need to project myself onto you to make right away. I'm like, I hate this character, and then bad things started happening to the character. I'm like, I don't care. More bad things started happening to the characters. I'm like, I just look. There's worse things to be in the world than a censor. Maybe. I mean, being a censor is pretty bad. Yeah, I could not get behind the character at all. So when all the bad stuff happened, I kind of didn't care. And I was kind of like, well, that's what you get.
This must be a tough movie for you to watch because we're talking about being locked in. This movie is really locked in on our character. Yeah. This is just pretty much, it almost feels like a one person play or experience because of what she's going through. Yeah.
One of the things I guess I wish they would have leaned into, they did lean into this a little bit, but I wish they would have leaned into it more to where she gets to really be on the other end of censorship and have that biter in the ass. You have someone says, I don't think it's a bad thing to limit free speech. As soon as someone says that, as soon as they talk, stop talking. No, but stop talking. You say one more word, I will take you to jail. And then anyone else that overhears, I will also take to jail because we cannot have what you just said out loud spread. But I was just stop talking because you're limiting free. So it would have been neat to see her doing the censorship and then just come right back around on her because look, censorship's great when you're the one controlling the speech, but what happens when that turns around on you? I wish they would have leaned a little more into that, and they kind of did, but that would have been fun to see, I think.
That is so interesting. That is a great read from Eric Holmes. You definitely do not recommend Censor, right?
No, I do.
Oh, you do? What?
Again, this is one of those things where like the stuff in the movie,
hate you with every fiber of my existence. Will you marry me?
Yeah.
I don't
know. It's so it'd be like watching like Downfall, for example. I hate the main character in that because it's Hitler, but the movie's interesting. It goes play. I kind of wish with this one, I kind of wish it would have went harder on certain things. And I hated the character, but I hated the character, and I think that's by design. At least I hope it's by design. If it's not, then
Okay, my bad. So you like this movie? You
Yeah.
recommend? Okay, because of how it made you feel, the execution of the movie.
Yeah.
Okay.
Human Centipede, I don't watch it like, oh, I feel so good. Like, I hate the character. I hate what I'm seeing on screen, but it's so effective, and I have
You
to
don't watch it
recommend
as
it.
an instructional movie or anything?
It says it's 100% medically accurate. It's the other ones that are inaccurate, so I don't watch
Okay.
those ones.
All
I
right.
want to learn, damn it.
Okay. I'm glad that I ended up really just falling in love with Censor, and I'm glad that you recommended it as well, Eric. Because you felt strongly about the character. Bruce, I wanted to throw it out to you. How did you do? You align with Eric's thoughts regarding Censor? What were your own thoughts? There's just so many ways to read this movie. That's what I
Yeah.
think. What's interesting about this film.
I liked it quite a bit. I think it definitely could have been even stronger, but I think it's very solid, and it kind of has stuck with me in certain ways too, which I think is a good sign. I think there's some more depth to be found there. I think if you really dig in what's happening with her. One thing I was really interested about was I like the concept, which is in the 80s, there's this whole thing in Britain called the video nasties. If you're familiar with that, this plays strongly on the idea of video nasties, which was there was a strong movement in England to ban ultraviolet movies. So the idea is like, okay, well, that process was going on. Who was doing the censorship? And I think that kind of maybe been springboard for this movie's concept, and then like going into the mind of that person and then adding a whole level of her past and her inability to cope with certain things and what's going on. I think on just a mystery kind of a personality breakdown sort of a movie, I think it works really well. As just a horror movie, it's pretty effective. As far as the unlikable character thing, I think this is comparable to a character like, say, in Taxi Driver, where you have a character who is deluded, and also deluded to the point that they think they have almost like we talk about white savior, whatever. They have kind of this idea that they are going to be a moral retribution for people. Like they kind of appointed themselves in that point, spot. Travis Bickle does that. She does that too, in a way.
Good point. Yeah.
But most of all, and we're not going to talk about what happens, but the final about 15 minutes I really liked. The final 5 minutes fucking blew me away. The final 5 minutes, there is some shit that goes down in that, which is just like, wow. It's really good, I thought. And I thought that alone and some of the style that I see there really gives me I will definitely watch what Prano Bailey Bond does next. She has a really interesting take, and I think there might be a lot of interesting stuff going on here about gender. I think about gender and how we discount what's going on with a person. I don't know if that has to be part of the story, but I think it is part of the story. I think there's some stuff going on there.
You mentioned something you think, and that's what makes her a very interesting filmmaker, because she doesn't spell everything out like a lot of storytellers will do. And sometimes there's nothing wrong with spelling out a narrative, but this movie actually look, you have several different reactions to Censor. When you listener, viewer, when you watch Censor, you're going to have your own specific and intense take regarding this movie's execution, your own personal read of Censor. And I think that by keeping a lot of this movie a bit abstract, I think it really hits a home run, I think, on an individual level. And I think this could have been a lesser movie if it actually really painted everything in a predictable fashion, and it doesn't. So there's a lot of layers you can peel regarding Censor. Also, a little bit of a warning, or maybe this is praise. A lot of Censor is a slow build. So you're actually, as Eric was saying about his distaste or displeasure or dislike of Enid, the main character played by Niamh Algar, you're really locked into her world for pretty much most of the movie. And you feel so claustrophobic. It does feel like a Roman Polanski type of movie. You feel so suffocated within her sphere that by the final act, if you have enough patience or maybe just enough breath to get to that final act, there's going to be a release where you're just going to get blown away. And I don't even want to say what it's about, but it will shock. It could potentially shock you, and I think probably impress you. So by the end of the film, I was really heavily invested in Censor, and I loved it. I love this movie. I was surprised at how much I loved it.
I watched Saint Maude this week,
Yeah.
On Versus Requests, and I gotta say, I'm thinking back on Censor and Saint Maude, like those two movies are kind of like Remember the part in Censor where the main character was like having the thing with the no, that was Saint Maud. Oh, but remember the part in Saint Maud where the thing that it then happened, it was like, oh wait, no, that. And so when you were talking about the end of Censor, I'm like, oh yeah, that was cool. When that was the Saint Maud. And I had to think for a second what the ending of Censor was. But you want to talk about good double features? Well,
if you want to just go down a hole of depression.
Yeah, I had to pump the brakes on that, but I mean,
let's say a fitting double feature.
Yeah, there you go. But I mean, even though Saint Maud's not specifically about censorship, Maude in Saint Maud does have that same kind of arrogance that the main character in Censor does. And so they kind of play off each other pretty well in that regard.
Cool.
Go ahead.
Hold on. Claire, say goodbye to Tito. Claire, say goodbye to
Tito
Tito.
Jackson is there?
Yeah. Please keep that in the show.
Okay, why don't you say hi to Bruce? Say hi to Bruce and Claire, say hi to everybody. Say hi to everybody.
Hi, Claire.
I have a little puzzle piece.
She has a little puzzle piece. Okay, yeah. So she was showing you the puzzle piece here. Get in the camera. It's my
puzzle.
Listeners. This is my niece Claire. I think you can. Can you see it yourself there? We're talking about this movie called Censor. There you are. Say hi.
You should not watch.
Hey, Claire. Claire, what's your thoughts on censorship? What do you think of that?
Eric was saying, what do you think of movies? Do you love movies?
Yeah, of course.
Don't censor what I'm saying.
He censored you.
It's low. Yeah. What is? Yeah.
Can I read it?
You can hear. Just say what. Tell them what's your favorite movie, and then you can go. Say what's your favorite movie.
What's your favorite movie?
Mine's Gremlins. What's yours?
What's yours?
What's yours?
I told you it's Gremlins.
Okay.
Oh, but what's your movie?
What's movie? They love different movies. Okay.
Oh.
Okay. So we gotta go now. Okay. Say bye bye.
Bye bye.
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 Okay. Bye. Love you. Okay.
Bye.
Okay. Go to Lola. Okay. See you. Have a good. Sorry guys. Okay. Okay. So you stop. I know you.
So, if you
Yeah,
watch,
good. Thank you. You're going to be the next Andy Kaufman. Can you? Okay, she didn't shut the door. That's okay.
Greg, never apologize for that. That was freaking adorable.
if you watch Censor and Saint Maud, make sure you have a break with her in between them, because that will cleanse the palate of all the horribleness that you're about to
Or
face.
SkaterGirl. Or SkaterGirl.
Yeah, or SkaterGirl.
Censor, Censor, SkaterGirl, and then end it with Saint Maud.
Okay, so bottom line is if they would make a good double feature. If I was would you recommend to the listeners Saint Maud and Censor? Which should they see first if they're doing a double feature, guys?
Honestly, Bruce might have a different thought because you saw Saint Maud before this. I saw Censor, then Saint Maud, but I think Censor started off a lot more clear on what the theme was, and then the theme kind of fizzled out towards the end, where Saint Maud wasn't very clear, and then it just got stronger. So I think if you start with Saint Maud or start with Censor and then end with Saint Maud, that theme will carry over into Saint Maud, I think.
Wow. Okay,
Yep,
Bruce.
I agree.
Okay. So that is Censor. Strong recommend for me and solid recommend from both of you guys.
Yep.
Yes.
Yepers.
Okay, so that is Censor, again, in theaters June 11th, on demand June 18th, and it's being released via Magnet. Have any of you guys seen Wrath of Man yet? The Guy Ritchie film as of yet? Oh, cool. So look, anything you want to say about Nia Malgar? She was really good, right? You liked her the performance? Yeah, she has a major role in Wrath of Man. Just FYI.
All right.
So that is our main features. Now we are going to. You guys have some rewinds. We're going to start off with Bruce. You have some quick rewinds you want to mention?
Yeah, quick rewinds. If you don't know, Disney Plus now has opened up Raya and the Last Dragon. I think I'm saying the name right. For free if you have Disney Plus, and it was one of those $30 ones for, I don't know, the last 3 months or so. And I know you, Greg, really loved that movie.
Yeah, was I overshooting that? Because I
think it's really solid. It's really solid. For me, it's not quite to the level of something like Coco, which I just watched recently. I think Coco has more of an adult complex plot, whereas Raya and the Last Dragon is more of a kind of a video game plot where it's like, we'll go to this land and gather something, go to this land and gather something. We'll keep gathering people as we go, but it's totally fun, totally great characters, and beautifully animated. It's a super solid family entertainment. In fact, that would be a good palate cleanser too. If you watch one of those movies, you watch Raya and the Last Dragon, and you won't go wrong. I mean, it's and one thing I appreciated about it too, it's a new story. It's not a retelling of a story we've already seen, even though it has elements like dragons, which kind of go, but they reimagine it in ways that you haven't seen quite the same before. And it's like its own world building. So I appreciated that aspect of it quite a bit too. And it was just fun to see and hear different actors than you hear a lot of times in these movies. So it was good. It was a good movie.
Yeah, I really love Raya and the Last Dragon. Eric Holmes, high recommendation. Definitely check it out on Disney Plus. Really, really good. Before we get to Eric, you got one more? You got
I
one
do,
more, Bruce?
yes. So
Yes.
today, both of my kids went with their grandpa a week or so ago, whenever Cruella first came out. And my youngest son really liked Cruella quite a bit. They both liked it, but he liked it quite a bit. So he said, Dad, you're going to go see Cruella. I said, okay, I'll go see Cruella. He said, I'm going to pay for your ticket, Dad. I'm like, okay, you can pay for my ticket. So today he went back and watched it again, and he paid for my ticket, and we went to the theater and watched Cruella.
You better sport it. Did you sport some money for some popcorn and condiments there, Bruce?
We never get popcorn. Nope, he just paid for me.
Okay. Fair.
That's how I raise them.
That's okay. Wow.
Pay your way, kid. No. So anyway, we saw Cruella, and I really loved it, actually. I thought it was really good.
I thought you would not like it at all. I'm so blown away.
I really, really enjoyed it. It's not going to be for everyone, obviously. But I think that what it does, we talked about cheeseburger movies, and we've been having having a laugh at the expense of, Army of the Dead and all these kind of movies coming out lately. But to me, this does it right. It's got its own style. It takes a known property, but it makes a whole unique story around it. The production design and the costuming is, if it's not Oscar nominated, I don't know what will be, because it's just insanely good. And this is it's just fun. It's just a fun movie.
You know what? I think it is fun. And I think the people who will not like it are ones who are expecting a steak rather than a cheeseburger. I think the word for this one of the words is breezy. It's a breezy affair, meaning it's light, it's fun, you get into it, and then you're out. I don't think there's anything really substantive.
Well, and what you've got too is, all these movies live and die on a good villain, right? How many Marvel movies have we seen with, terrible villains and boring? You've got two good characters here, know, and with
Emma Thompson.
Thank you.
So good. So good.
As the Baroness, that amazing. And for a Disney movie, it goes darker than you think it would be. Obviously it's being edgy and quote whatever, but it does go darker. She is killing people or wants to kill people. They don't fool around with it. They don't say like, I'm going to ruin you and take away your career and send you into the streets. No, she said, I'm going to kill you. And I appreciated that from a Disney movie, that it was that straightforward. It's like, nope, the stakes are very serious. They're exactly what they are. So.
And you don't have to. I'm not a fashion plate, as you guys can see. I do not know anything. I know zero about couture. But to your point, Bruce and Eric, this is worth watching. It's a beautiful movie to look at. Just looking at all the beautiful dresses and outfits that are made. It's a feast for the eyes. Yeah.
And it's more energetic, and the camera movements are more fun and interesting than they need to be for this movie. And I appreciated that as well. Yeah. Even though some of the transitions are digital, it's still done in a really interesting way, where you'll have things like an overhead shot going across the street and then down and then through a skylight and down into the building. It's kind of like Disney's version of Scorsese, right? Going all the way down. And there's a great scene where early on she gets her job at the new fashion place, right? And that's not spoiling anything. And you go through the skylight, you go down, you go through the entire building all the way down to the bottom floor. And then you find her cleaning a toilet in the basement, basically. Yeah. And it's like, they did not have to do the shot that way. And that is great world building, fun, energetic, really great production. I have to say, it's a solid movie. It's a good movie.
Yeah. Do you think Eric Holmes will like this movie, Cruella?
I don't know, man. His foot is planted pretty hard. And I could say that this is definitely not going to be for everybody. I would say, here's the example. So if you like punk, but you can never listen to any pop punk ever, then this probably wouldn't be for you. But I can free myself up to be like, you know what? This is a pop song. I like it. This is a pop song movie, and it's okay. It's all right to bring a pop song movie. It does it well.
Yeah. I like fizzy drinks. I'm okay with that. Eric Holmes, you like fizzy drinks? Oh, yeah. You have a fizzy drink. Well, do you have a rewind, Eric Holmes, after these two?
I do.
You have a big one that Bruce Purkey covered last week.
Well, real quick with the Cruella, yeah, I'm hearing everywhere this, and I feel I know this is paranoia setting in. I know this, but I just have to say it out loud so you can know what's going on in my head. I think you all are lying to me to try to trick me into watching Cruella, and I'm gonna come back and go, "What the hell are you doing?"
Okay, you remember how a few years ago everyone was talking about Paddington 2 and Paddington, it's a great movie, and everyone was like, what? Yeah. And it was a great movie. This is kind of like that. Like,
okay, well, see, I saw one of the Paddingtons and I thought it was fine.
Yeah,
but although all those movies are kind of the same to me, like I don't get I don't understand what makes, I don't know, Over the Hedge a terrible movie and Paddington a great movie. Like that, they're both the same to me.
To me, at least Cruella is at least a fine movie. Yeah. I don't think you're going to think it sucks. And I could think that there's some other movies that we talked about. You mean like, no, how did you like that? I don't think this is one of those how did you like that kind of movies. I could see it being like, it's just fine to me. But I also think if you go in with an open mind, it could be a better than fine movie for you.
Yeah. And it might be. I think for Cruella, this is going to be one of those, like, if the kids have it on, I'll watch it with them, but I'm probably not going to seek it out. Or maybe or
if you can get one of them to pay your way to go see it. See, I got this down, man.
Well, this is a program.
Like, May, you gonna buy my ticket for me? Yeah, cool. I'm gonna go in one of these other theaters.
Folks, bad news. Program change for Saturday. We were supposed to record the Strickland podcast with In Fabric and the Duke of Burgundy, where Bruce and I were making a change. We're doing a deep dive on Cruella, spoilers, and we're also going to do 101 Dalmatians. So, folks,
all right,
that's just in special.
Yep, there it is.
There it is. Eric Holmes, I'm going to go up and I'm going to actually close the door right now. Can you tell us about this very silent movie that you watched over the weekend? And I'll be right back.
Yes. So I went to the theater the other day to watch A Quiet Place 2, which might be okay. I have to preface this, and I made a meme and posted this on the Cinematics Facebook page. There's a saying that you can have a great script and make a bad movie out of it, but you can't make a good movie out of a bad script. Quiet Place kind of did that. Quiet Place 2 absolutely did that. This script is dog shit, but somehow, some way, I didn't care. Like, I think, and I could be wrong, I think John Krasinski is just that good of a director. He can take, like, look, so Quiet Place 1 had a bunch of, like, we talked about, like, eye-rolling moments. Like, and if this were any other movie, I would just write this off. But they had the two main screenwriters, and then John Krasinski was also credited as a screenwriter. I figure since he's directing it, maybe he's like, oh, don't say go there, say go here. You know, like maybe change a word or two here and there, or probably a little more than that, because arbitration and screenwriting works like you can't just add a word and then all of a sudden you're a writer for a movie. But Quiet Place had some ridiculous plot elements to it from someone that clearly doesn't understand how physics works. And I'm just talking basic physics. But it was still fun and it was still thrilling, and I just didn't care. And now you have Quiet Place 2, which John Krasinski is the sole screenwriter on it. And there's even more stupid things in this. Like, just, it almost feels like the aliens of this movie wrote this movie, because it like some of the stuff that happens in it is just mind-boggling.
The boy does some really stupid shit.
Dude, I wanted him dead. Like, I wanted him dead the entire time. Or dispatched. We'll say dispatched.
Dispatched, okay.
I don't want to set the stakes for this podcast quite yet.
Yeah.
But if I describe this movie to myself, I would say that sounds like a piece of shit and I'm not watching it. But it works. And I don't get it. John Krasinski must be a genius, because that script and just the stuff that happens in the stuff people say, the stupid things they do. The movie's broken. It ends. The Quiet Place 1 ends. They know how to kill the things, and then they have the flash. Well, first of all, okay, so the flashback scene where it opens is awesome. I fucking love that part. And then the way you see the aliens come in right there. If I'm there, I'm shitting my pants. I'm like, nope, I'm out. And everyone's just walking away like, I guess I'll see it. Or it's like, But then the rest of the movie happens, and it's just one dumb thing after another dumb thing happening. So back to the beginning. You can have a good script and make a bad movie, but you can't make a good movie out of a bad script. John Krasinski proved that wrong. The script is stupid. It's poorly written in many parts, or at least according to what happens in the movie. But it just works. And I think John Krasinski I would not hire him to write anything ever. I would totally hire him to direct anything, because he's proven that he can polish a turd and make it look like a diamond, because this movie totally works, and it should not work. I cannot wrap my brain around why I love this movie so much.
I think the set pieces are really solid. The editing is really good, and the acting is really good.
Yeah.
And I think that you've seen, like, if you could have the same scene acted poorly and acted well, an actor can go a long way, and also into selling some pretty crappy stuff. So I think that's kind of the secret of this movie. But the set pieces are just solid. You could take them and plop them into any movie, and they'd still be really solid, tense set pieces.
Yeah.
Right.
And so it's Cillian Murphy's. Who's the deaf girl?
I don't have it written down anymore.
Millicent Simmons or something.
Yeah.
Yeah.
She's fantastic in this. In fact, she's got a couple scenes where, I mean, her dialogue is mostly quiet. Even like when she's talking, it's like just moving lips. But she's fantastic in this. The guy that plays her brother, he's not a bad actor. I'm not gonna say that, but his character. Oh, I want to choke the shit out of his character. I'm like, I hope those monsters get you.
All right, so that is A Quiet Place Part 2. And listeners, Eric is very good with kids. Okay, so don't ever about him. He's a great uncle. Don't throw a cease and desist on us. He's a good guy, and he's he's
gonna put a bell around that kid's neck and send him out to go find some aliens.
What is it called? A Quieter Place, or Quiet Place Part 2? I haven't seen either movie, so one of these days I'm gonna see it. One of the reasons why I haven't seen it is because everyone loves a movie. So when everyone says they love a movie, I usually just make a left. Eventually, I'll probably Bruce. I eventually have to see this, right? This is just like really high level. Okay.
This is entertainment. This is one of those movies. It's on TV. You drop in. You totally have a good time with it. You don't have to like think too hard.
I think this is one of those though that if you at all want to watch it, if you have any desire, the theater is the way to go with this one. For the exact same reason that you would watch the first one in the theater. I think if I would have watched this at home, I might not have been as enthralled. In fact, I probably would have been throwing stuff at my TV and just storming out the room.
All right, so that is it. That is sequel. I guess sometimes sequels really work, and even if they have a bad script, John Krasinski, like you said, he's quite the director.
I think he's a damn genius. He has to be. There's no other way. There's no other way around it.
Okay, but Bruce and Eric actually have a movie that they've both seen, and that they're, I think both of them going to recommend. But before we get to that, let's just talk some quick recommends or not recommends. First off, Bruce, Bo Burnham, Inside. Everyone on our Cinematics Facebook group, everyone is praising the heck out of this movie. I haven't consumed any of Bo Burnham's, any of his stuff, or I haven't even seen, I think 8th grade, haven't seen any of his stuff, but is this brilliant? Inside?
I think it is. And once again, I'll just preface it by saying I don't have to talk too much about it, because it's pretty buzzy right now. Easy to access. It's on Netflix. First of all, I would just say I'm not a stand-up special kind of guy. I'm not a big stand-up comedy kind of guy. I'm not a stand-up musical comedy kind of guy. And he's kind of intellectual musical comedy. That's kind of his shtick. I did like 8th grade a fair amount. It was pretty solid coming of age comedy drama, awkward movie. But Inside is definitely a worthwhile watch. I'll just quickly give you the basic concept, if you haven't heard already, is that he essentially is stuck in quarantine last year, like everybody, and he has a room. It looks like it might be like a mother-in-law house behind the house, like a small little 1-room building, and it's just full of electronic equipment, lighting, recording equipment, keyboards, stuff like that. And he just decides he's going to make his special in quarantine himself, and it's essentially that. So it's every month or so he's coming up with a new song or a new bit, lighting, everything to go with it. And then interstitially, he's kind of dealing with life in quarantine. And it also is very, very strongly aimed at kind of internet culture, internet life, what it's like right now in the digital kind of world. And he gets pretty depressed too throughout it. So his hair grows long, his beard grows long, everything happens in it you might think would happen into it. So I would say, what I would say as a person, if you're already into that kind of thing, or into stand-up comedy, or into Bo Burnham, it's a no-brainer. If you aren't, kind of like me, give it a shot and give it more than 3 songs. I would say 2 or 3 songs, and if you're not in at that point, go ahead and tap out. But if you give it 2 or 3 songs, you'll know the feel of it, and it probably will suck you in.
This is is a strong recommendation for you?
Yeah, this is really good stuff. I mean, yeah, for sure.
Okay. Have you seen Bo Burnham Inside, Eric? Have you seen that yet? Are you going to see it? Are you a fan of his stuff? Or
I like him. I haven't watched much of his stand-up. Actually, I don't think I've seen any of his stand-up, but
okay.
I believe Andrew Martin gave it a high mark. So I mean, honestly, if Andrew Martin tells me to watch Cruella, I'm gonna have to watch Cruella.
Okay, Andrew Martin, ground control to Andrew Martin, please tell Eric Holmes to watch Cruella if you want Eric Holmes to have a really horrible weekend. Have him watch Cruella immediately.
Then I don't have to take the burn for it. On that one.
Speaking of you, Eric Holmes, you have a little bit of a recommendation, or maybe not. Can you tell us the preface of why you wanted to really just briefly talk about this film called Hard Kill?
Yeah, so there was Joe Russo, not from the Marvel, but I reviewed a movie called Au Pair Nightmare, and then he commented on the Twitter thing like this week, and then I was like, oh, that's cool, and he was pretty happy with the review, and so I was like, and then I went back and listened to the episode again, and you mentioned Hard Kill, and I was like, oh fuck, that's right, I gotta go watch that. And I mentioned that on the Twitter, and he was like, might not want. Yeah, I was like, hey, you know what, fuck it. And my thought on it was, dude, you made a movie, which is more than any of us has done. And it, worst case scenario, it's not, it doesn't work. And this movie absolutely doesn't work. But the weird
Can
thing
I say
is,
this though? Can I say this? Do you listen to the episode? You listened to me actually giving the movie sort of a thumbs up, right? Yeah.
Here's the thing though. This movie should be in my wheelhouse.
Yes.
And so you have the screenwriters Joe Russo and Chris Lamont. Hold on, let me pull it up. Yeah, Chris Lamont, and they both worked on Au Pair Nightmare, and so I know that they understand the genre. What the hell are they screaming at?
That's the director of Hard Kill knocking on your door right now. There are some beautiful visual compositions in Hard Kill, man. I remember Clock Tower by the attic thing. That was really cool.
So here's the thing. I don't know if Joe Russo is listening to this, but I would like to know what went wrong, because this movie feels like there's a disconnect between the writer and the director. It feels like someone's trying to make like a silly, fun action movie, and someone's trying to do like a deep message. And what this movie needs to be has to be one or the other, and it's not quite gelling here. And so I'd really like to know like what went wrong. So as much as Au Pair Nightmare won't be for everyone, Joe Russo wrote it and directed it, and he completely understands the genre he was in. I wonder what Hard Kill would be like had Matt
Eskandari.
Yeah, Matt Eskandari. Had Matt Eskandari not been the director and Joe Russo was the director, I'm wondering if this movie would have worked a lot as well as Au Pair Nightmare did. And first of all, Bruce Willis is in this movie, and I'm guessing that's probably to this movie's detriment, because Bruce Willis I could be wrong, he didn't show up, but
oh wow.
But
Jesse Metcalf, I thought it was fine.
Jesse Metcalf I liked, but I would have loved who I loved in this, Natalie Eva Marie, who I found out later is a wrestler. She's got like 5 lines in this, and she sells every one of them. I was like, Jesse Metcalf's pretty good in this, but they should have switched her and Natalie Eva Marie, and Natalie Eva Marie should have been the star of this movie. She was fucking fantastic in this. And then I started thinking, I was like, you know what? If I had like millions of dollars to just throw at people to make money, I would throw Joe Russo like say $20 million and say, I want you to write a silly action movie. You know, the overcomplicated plot, the Scott Adkins type movie that we all love, the Michael Dudikoff movies that we all love. I want you to make that movie, but I wanted to start Natalie, Eva Marie, and Tig Notaro with either Scott Adkins, or if you can find him, Sho Kosugi as the main bad guy. Okay. I would, if I had $20 million, I would give them that, because there's a cool movie here. There was just something that broke up, and I don't know what it is. But this should have absolutely been a movie I love, and there was some good stuff in it for sure, especially Natalie Eva Marie. But it didn't quite work, and I think it might have had to do with the director, or the director not quite understanding the movie he was making. Maybe.
Bruce Purkey, are you marking this down on our podcast? This is the time that actually Eric Holmes started Breaking Bad, and he turned from a podcaster / director to an actual producer. Can you mark this? Can you timestamp?
Yeah, I think this is the day, man. Soon the empire begins.
Yeah.
What are we going to call his production company?
Yeah, what are you going to call your production company, Eric?
Home Sweet Homes.
Yeah, that'd be terrible, but sure, why not? I call it Kill Hard.
Kill Hard.
But I do want to say this.
That is a good pitch, by the way.
Because this is the second time we brought up Joe Russo, and I always have to caveat that we're not talking about the MCU, and I'm honestly not that big of a fan of the MCU movies. So from here on out, if Joe Russo, Au Pair Nightmare, Joe Russo makes another movie, first of all, if he writes and directs a movie, I'm watching it 100% of the time. But from here on out, he will be henceforth known as the good Joe Russo.
By the way, is there a lawsuit in hand, Eric Holmes, if Joe Russo actually takes your idea and run and has Natalie Eva Marie actually?
Nope.
No? So
nope.
You're cool.
I just want to see it.
Okay.
I just want to see that come to fruition, and throwing that out there. Maybe it'll happen. Probably not. You know, that's how these things work. But you never know. When you do podcasts, sometimes you throw things out and then see what sticks. And I would love to see him do something with her and Tig Notaro and Sho Kosugi and or Scott Adkins.
That is very cool. Eric Holmes. That is a very good pitch. What do you think of the pitch, Bruce? Like it?
I think it sounds really good. I'm ready for it. Let's do this.
You know what I wasn't ready for, Bruce Purkey? Sometimes listeners, during the week, after we're done recording the show, and then there's like another movie coming out, within like about several hours, Bruce Purkey is already on the freaking horn watching movies and getting ready for next week. He literally paralyzes me up until he makes me actually procrastinate even more, because he intimidates me with his early watchings. One of those early watchings that Bruce Purkey just laid down the gauntlet after we recorded last week's podcast was he wanted to tell me and Eric Holmes this interesting movie called Caveat. And Bruce, I would love to hear what you think of this movie. Should I see it? I know, Eric Holmes, you're going to jump in on this review as well.
Actually, no. Before you start that, I wrote Caveat in the movies I've seen. I meant to write
You meant Censor? Oh,
I meant to write Censor. I wrote Caveat. So I did not see this, but I will be rewinding it next week.
Okay, cool.
Lord Eric's had his own personal caveat regarding Caveat. Bruce Purkey, take it away with Caveat.
So Caveat, I'm almost tempted to not tell you too much, but I'm going to tell you enough that it'll either draw you in or it won't draw you in. And this is one of those little movies. It's on Shudder, by the way. Brand new movie directed by Damien McCarthy. This is a movie where it sucked me in with the concept, and it's always hard sometimes to pay off a concept, and whether this pays off or not for some people will definitely vary. But like any horror movie, there's a level of taste and what you like. But that being said, basic concept is this guy named Isaac comes to this man named, I think I got it wrong. Okay, Isaac, I believe, is the main guy. I might have written it down wrong. But so this man comes up to this other guy and says, hey, I need you to do a job for me. And it sounds like they've had a relationship before. And the guy's, Isaac's like, okay, well, what's the job? He says, well, my brother recently passed away. He actually committed suicide. He passed away recently. His daughter, Olga, is suffering from some real emotional issues, and she keeps going back to where they used to live, and she won't leave. And I need somebody to be there with her to make sure she stays safe. And I'll pay you $200 a day, only for like 3 or 4 days. It'll be good. $200 a day. And that's all you got to do is just make sure she stays safe and just hang out with her there at the house. And that's the setup. And he's like, well, it sounds kind of weird, but sure. So they drive off to go to the house. and they come to the edge of the water, and he goes, well, where's the house? What's across there on the island? Wait, you didn't tell me it was an island. No, it's an island. Sorry, it's on an island. So that's the second weird thing that happens. And they get to the house, and he says, well, she's a little paranoid. She doesn't want anyone coming in her room at night or anything. So you're going to have to wear this harness with a chain on it. And the chain will only reach to certain areas of the house. So you're going to be able to reach some areas of the house. You're going to be locked in this harness with a chain, and you're not going to be able to get to her room, and you're not going to be able to get to other areas of the house. And that's the setup for the movie. And that's how it begins. I really enjoyed this movie. I know some of our fellow cinematics group people have been mixed on it. I think it has a really, really creepy, interesting set design. The tone is really odd and really, and all that stuff I mentioned to you, by the way, happens like the first 10 minutes. This is not a very long movie either. So you don't have to wait 45 minutes to get to that point. It's got lots of twists and turns. I think it operates to me almost like an indie horror video game, because by the end of this movie, you have crept every crevice and hidden passageway and place in this little cabin house. You know it in and out. And the final 20 minutes, there's a sequence in there that is one of the most hair-raising, creepy sequences I've seen in a long, 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 long time. It's really, really good. And it's not a jump scare. It's just dread. I think Caveat's really good if you're a horror fan into indie horror and weird, just a weird movie with interesting concepts. I think this is worth checking out.
Better than Censor?
Different. It's really different than Censor. I think Censor has a little more of a wham bam blow your mind ending, whereas this one is more continually creeping dread and twists and turns. So I think this is more, acts more like a haunted, almost it affects you in the way more like a haunted house kind of movie would, even though it's not necessarily a haunting that's going on here. It has more of that effect than the kind of mind-bending effects of Censor. So I think depending on your taste, you'd like one or the other better. It could go either way.
I've been reading reviews on Caveat on IMDb. It's interesting. Maybe there's been a couple out of scale of 1 to 10. There's been a couple 5 and 6s, a bunch of 9s and 10s. And a bunch of 1s and 2s and 3s.
Yeah.
These are the type of movies I really love, because you're either going to probably really dislike it or going to really love it. I love with movies when there's really no in between.
This is a give it 20 minutes kind of movie. And if you're not
minutes.
if you're not in 20 minutes, you probably won't like it. But if you're in 20 minutes, just stay on the ride and see where it goes.
I'm going to check out Caveat, and we'll maybe fully flesh out that full review. Not like you didn't do it, Bruce. But we're gonna have a couple cowboys coming in next week for some caveats, right, Eric Holmes? You can do some caveats. Okay.
Yes.
Okay. All right. Are we gonna love it, Bruce?
Well, with one caveat.
Oh, okay. Okay. Are we gonna love it, Bruce? Are we gonna say this is like as good as Relic and all that stuff? Or are we gonna?
I don't think it's quite as good as Relic. It doesn't have the emotional impact of something like Relic. I think Relic was a pretty outstanding movie overall. This movie, I don't think either of you would hate it. And I think there's a good chance that one of you might really dig it. I could see Eric going either way on it. I think if it captures him, Eric will really dig it, because this is definitely a unique movie, and it definitely doesn't do the standard jump scary Conjuring kind of stuff. This is its own animal. It's very unique.
Okay, so that is Caveat. It's currently streaming as we, Bruce, and in Shudder, right? On Shudder as we speak. And I forgot to ask you, Eric Holmes, the ending of Censor. I forgot to ask. Bruce and I both loved it. Did you like the ending of Censor? Without giving too much away, did you?
Yes. Yes. It just took me a second because I got that confused with the Saint Maude ending, which is also a good ending.
Okay, also good ending. Bruce, better ending, Saint Maude or Censor? Which is the better ending? Which or is it hard to compare because they're both excellent endings?
I really love Saint Maude, but I almost think I like Censor better because I think it's a little more horrifying.
A little more.
I think what is actually going on at the end of Censor is pretty damn horrifying. So,
it is, but the Saint Maude, like there's that literally the last 5 frames of that movie.
Saint Maude is more of a gut punch.
Oh, okay.
It is, but man,
it's
like literally the last 5 frames of Saint Maude's like, oh shit.
yeah. It's audacious as fuck.
Listeners, be very scared about Bruce Purkey, because he's basically saying the more horrifying a movie is, the more he loves it. I will not look Bruce Purkey straight dead in the eye for the rest of the episode. I am absolutely terrified. So that is our review of, oh no, Bruce, stop it. Okay, very good. So that is Caveat, and that is it. We're going to finish the show with Bruce Purkey's What's in the Box. This is going to be an interesting selection. We're gonna also drop right now as we speak a really cool intro segment by who, Bruce Purkey?
Mr. Pete Abeta from the Middle Class Film Class.
And thank you, Peter Beta and the crew, the Middle Class Film Class crew. Here is Peter Beta's really awesome drop recording. What's in the box?
Who's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
We're back. We don't like silences. That's why you heard a little laugh, little remark from, I think, Bruce or Eric. Again, I don't know if it's Bruce because I'm still not even looking at him right now. I don't know if I even want to look at either of you guys after this what is this recommendation, Bruce? Can you tell us what is this? What is Irma La Who? What is this?
Irma La Douce, 1963, Billy Wilder, suggested by Brian O'Connell, who always brings interesting suggestions. So
yeah, what was his last suggestion? Oh, rudderless. Recently he did rudderless.
Yeah.
By the way, I am a rudderless person. I felt like I was the only one on the boat trying to say I really enjoyed rudderless, but unfortunately my boat sank because both Eric and Bruce really did not like rudderless, to say the least. I think their only favorite part of that movie was seeing Selena Gomez's performance in that film. That was a joke.
The Ghost of Exhibition.
So, what were we saying, Eric? I'm sorry.
I'm just saying with rudderless, the music, I like the music. The other stuff was a little too ridiculous for me.
Ridiculous. Now, speaking of ridiculous, Irma La Douce, Bruce Purkey, how was this as a choice? Was this better than rudderless? It's the movie's like 2 hours and 15 minutes or 2 hours and 20 minutes. That already scared me. Anything over 80 minutes scares the living, you know what? Yeah.
Yeah, I'm always interested to go back in older movies that I haven't seen. And I think I'd mentioned last week that I thought this had some connection to when I was a little kid and my dad. And I actually asked him ahead of time, and I can tell you what he said. He said that he was in Myrtle Lane Drive in Coquille, Oregon in the summer of 65 or 66 while I was a little baby. And they were trying to watch it and they were about halfway through. And I was crying so much that they couldn't finish it. And apparently he's never finished it. So the last 50 whatever years, he has not finished the movie. So I have finished the movie. He has not.
Cried during this viewing, Bruce Purkey. Was
that
an
cry? This is a comedy. It's not really an emotional movie, especially.
I was thinking maybe you were crying because Irma La Douce was not Sunset Boulevard or Stalag 17.
Well, I guess he'd be more comparable
Hot,
to like, I guess 7-Year Itch, but maybe Some Like It Hot. I think it's kind of trying to go for more of that kind of little slapstick, little over the top comedy. But yeah, we should talk about it. So what is Irma La Douce?
Yeah, I can do
perfect movie.
A perfect.
Go on.
I'll do a plot summary because you're gonna fill in you're gonna put the meat on the bone. Okay, so essentially, Jack Lemmon, he plays a policeman. Okay, he plays a policeman named Nestor Pateau. And what happens is it's the beginning of the movie. He actually stumbles upon this red light district in Paris. It's his first day on the job as a cop, and unfortunately, he's trying to do his best, and he sees all these prostitutes along the street. A lot of people doing shady business, and he tries to bring all the prostitutes in, including Irma La Douce. Irma is played by Shirley MacLaine. She is one of the streetwalkers, one of the ladies of the evening. And yeah, she's one of the prostitutes in this movie. And he brings her in along with the other girls. And what happens is, well, it's a very corrupt city. It's a corrupt time. By doing the lawful thing, what happens is Nestor eventually is laid off on his first day of the job. That's not a spoiler. That's a premise of Irma La Douce. And the rest of the movie deals with Nestor's eventual relationship with Irma La Douce, who is a prostitute. There is a push and pull because they're both in love with each other, but we're living in a time and place in Paris in 1963 where he ends up being her pimp. But when the pimps on this area, they're actually the lovers of the prostitutes. The prostitutes are the ones who actually they proverbially bring home the bacon. They're the ones who are supporting all the men who spend their days at the local bar playing pool and just shooting the proverbial you know what. So all the hardest women, working people on the street are the women, are the prostitutes. And what happens is this former cop played by Jack Lemmon, he wants to actually turn the tide, and he wants Irma La Douce all for himself. So he decides to disguise himself as this very rich British aristocrat named Lord X, which leads into Lord Eric Holmes's moniker for this episode, Lord Eric's. This one is actually Jack Lemmon, the great Jack Lemmon, playing Lord X as the aristocrat. He pretends to be Lord X to romance or actually just pay for Irma La Douce. So Irma La Douce doesn't have to see any other Johns. That is a premise behind Irma La Douce. Again, it's over 2 hours, I believe 2 hours and it says here 2 hours and 27 minutes. I should have been stuttering immediately just by looking at the running time. Oh my goodness. Oh, lastly, it is co-written by Billy Wilder and his long co-writing partner. I believe it's IAL Diamond. It's based on a play by Alexander Breffert. We're going to lead with you, Bruce. It's your segment. Your thoughts on Irma La Douce.
I really enjoyed it quite a bit. I think that a great way to think about this movie to know if it's going to be your style or not is it really has the feel and look and kind of spirit of those classic Hollywood musicals. It feels like a Hollywood musical. It's got the staginess, it's got the broad characters, it's got that energy, kind of the somewhat silly broad comedy, but no songs. Well, other than there's music in there a little bit, but there's not like the songs that you get in like. It was
supposed to be a musical, and they took out the music on it, which is weird.
Oh, well, that makes sense.
It's supposed to be a musical, and they were saying that maybe there might be some kind of lost footage of McClane and Lemon. I haven't dug deep within Irma La Douce, but it was originally envisioned as a musical, and Billy Wilder said, no, let's just go exactly like Bruce Wheaton as a straight narrative.
Well, I definitely picked up on that, I guess, because that felt like that. But so that could be a selling point or not a selling point for some people. For the people who kind of like the style and feel of those Technicolor, Hollywood, stage-bound kind of productions, but want the music, you might feel it's missing because it's just the comedy that's going on. For me, I don't always need that music. Sometimes it's great, sometimes it's not. If you can get into the comedy and get into kind of the broad nature of it, I think you can have a lot of fun here. To me, there are some really, really fun characters. I mean, we already talked about Jack Lemmon basically plays two characters. For me, that's pretty great. Shirley MacLaine, I think, just steals everything she does in this movie. You can see, and I don't think this is her first. I mean, she was in The Apartment and some other stuff before this, I think, but you can see why she was a star. I mean, she shines. She has insane comic timing, and she is just luminous, and she's beautiful, and she's charming, everything you'd expect. And she's kind of hard edged with him too. She's kind of no nonsense, which you want from that character as well. And then also there's the character of the bartender who's really fun in this movie too, because there's basically two main locations: is kind of her apartment and also the hotel, and then across the street there's this cafe bar kind of place. And Moustache, we were talking about earlier, Moustache has always got a story. Oh yes, I used to be the whatever, he'll say, like, I used to be the head surgeon at whatever, but that's a story for another time, or whatever. And he does that like throughout the movie, and he's a lot of fun as well. I think that if you get into the vibe of this movie, it's a ton of fun. I don't think it feels really long because there's at least 2 or 3 big segments in this movie that each have their own kind of arc, and by having the whole extra character that Jack Lemmon plays, it adds a whole other level of fun, I think, to this movie. I enjoyed it quite a bit. I can see it not being for everybody, but if you like that kind of older style, you could do a lot worse than Irma La Douce. It was fun.
So that is a solid recommend from Bruce Purkey. Eric Holmes, your take on Irma La Douce. Chime in.
I already said it was a perfect movie, and I stand by that.
What? Perfect movie. Wow.
So we talk about like long movies and them overstaying their welcome. TV shows, but this is 2.5 hours long, and it earns the runtime because, like Bruce said, this thing just moves. Like if I checked the time, I was thinking, oh, we're like 10 minutes in. I look, oh, we're an hour into this thing. Holy crap! Because that what it does is like every scene is kind of like its own short film. Because it sets everything up. It's completely interesting, and everything pays off in wonderful ways. And then even later on in movies, like they'll bring back certain things that they paid off in earlier scenes. And they'll often say that, they'll talk about character versus plot in screenwriting or just movie making in general. This is a great example that does both extremely well. The plot just moves, but the way the setups are, because it almost feels kind of like a Three Stooges kind of routine at times. The part where Jack Lemmon breaks out of jail and they're looking in the apartment for him. That was one of the most brilliant things I've ever seen in my life. That's just hilarious. The whole subplot with Lord X. And then how that plays out. They have a whole murder plot of a character that doesn't exist. I love everything about this movie. I love all the characters. The characters are like, even the minor characters have a lot of color to them. The prostitutes, like they'll have a line, but it's like, okay, I know who this person is, and it's not oh, you're a prostitute. It's like you kind of I feel everyone's well-rounded, even the characters just have like a single line, and then the characters are kind of arch, still have a little more to them. Yeah, I love this movie. It's fantastic. Absolute recommend. And if you don't like it, then you're wrong.
I might be wrong, folks. I still have about 29 minutes left on this movie. So far, my initial impression is the last 35 minutes have been a slog for me. It's been tough for me. It's been a marathon. Yeah, I know. You thought I would. Yeah, no. I
thought you were gonna fucking love the shit out of this.
Yeah. You thought I was gonna love the effing. You know what out of this? I will say a couple things about this movie though. One of these things that makes this one of the excellent parts about Irma La Douce is, Bruce, you're mentioning this, the production design. You feel there are only several locations, like you were saying, but the way the sets, you feel like it's actually set in a movie set, the way it looks so cartoonish, right? But you feel that the whole place is lived in. It feels like a lived-in cartoon strip or something like that. It's a feast. It's a feast for the eyes. Visually, it's gorgeous to look at. Eric mentioned the word colors. The colors in this movie absolutely pop and you said even in the incidental characters, their costumes or their dresses, they pop just like the visuals of Cruella. So on a surface sheen level, this is just high props to the production design, the costume design, all of that stuff. I just the whole idea about the arc about Lord X and pretending like, I know you guys loved it. I was still a little bit, I don't know. It's one of these things. I'm totally like that Jack Lemmon character. Maybe I'm looking in the mirror a little bit too much. I'm exactly as neurotic as Nestor, aka Lord X, in this movie. Maybe I just saw the shock of recognition. Maybe that's why I'm downvoting this movie so far. That said, I still have 29 minutes to go. There's a couple of things that could really save me, but so far it's very strong as far as the production design and the costume design. I just feel that the movie could have been shorter. That said though, Eric, you loved the whole world behind this, and you're probably disagreeing with me. I'm counter. You love the world.
I considered like shortening. Like I specifically thought about. Well, actually, I kind of thought about shortening it down to maybe an hour and a half. We'll see around there, maybe about 80 minutes or so. But I couldn't figure out what to cut.
Wow.
Because the way the plot, and especially once you get to the end, like how everything ties together, like for me, this movie's everything ties up, everything's satisfying, and the Lord X bit at the end, fucking perfect.
Okay.
But so to cut this down, the idea would be, well, what do you cut? And so because everything in the plot is so like, even though they're kind of their own separate scenes, everything is kind of so intertwined in a brilliant way.
I think that it's the flavor though. If people don't like it, it's because they don't like, say, that flavor of that broad kind of comedy styling. Like if you're not into that, this is not going to work for you. You know what I mean? The same way that some people like see an 80s horror movie, they say, oh, it's cheesy because it's got all these like, mechanical effects and it's just silly. So I think that I went into it going like, I'm just going to go with this and see if I like this flow. And I enjoyed it quite a bit. Silly things that I can see people hating, but like the scene where she's like trying to get Lord X to perform and she's doing all these different like fantasy scenes with him and he's laying there in the bed, and it's kind of risque in that 60s kind of way, but it's so much fun. And there's so many scenes like that. I thought that standalone scenes that were just fun, but for some people might be just like you said, a slog, because it's like if it's not working on you, then it's it would all.
Another great scene, just to tie in, like, drive the point home of how everything pays off in this. The hat and the money, the money in the hat. So they have the cop show. He takes his hat off, and then you don't notice it right away, but after someone says something, that everyone's looking the other way, and you do know that no one's looking at that hat that's sitting there, that the people were walking by dropping money in. And then the cop turns around, puts it on his head, and just walks off. And then Jack Lemmon does that same thing, not knowing what's going on. He just takes his hat down, sets it down. Everyone thinks, oh, it's time to pay the cop. We're gonna throw the money in there. He puts a hat on, and that doesn't pay off for like another half hour, 40 minutes. But
this movie I think is really smart. So once again, if you don't like the tone, it might not work for you. But this movie does things almost in the way that Scorsese does things. Like it sets a world, it gives you the rules, it walks you through it so you really understand how everything works. And then it once it does that, it lets your characters interact in that world. And I think that it does it really, really well. Like you said, like, you know what the hat means. When you see the hat, you know that. And then later on, there's always little little things like the Censor bottle.
The Censor bottle is very funny. That's a very good gag.
But it becomes like an ongoing thing. Or there's this lamp above the pool table that spins. That gets utilized multiple times in the movie. There's lots of things about just the sets themselves that become ongoing parts of the story. You know, the stuff that they hang in front of her window so you can't see into it. You know, there's just a lot of little things like that that are like Eric says, that pay off if you're already in that world and buying it. So
I'm really curious, Greg, if you finish this, I really want to know what you think of that Lord X gag at the very end.
Okay, well,
because either A, you're going to be like, wow, that was great, or B, you're going to be like, this is going to send you over the...
I'm out of here. Okay, no, well, so far, I mean, the jury's still out, so I still have about those 29 minutes. I'll probably finish this out right after the recording, or maybe I might not finish it because maybe Bruce will text us and say he's actually watching a new movie for next week and really intimidate the heck out of me. No, look, here's the thing. This is a little bit sad, okay? But a movie fact regarding Irma La Douce. Bruce Yarnell, he's an actor he's playing Hippo or Hippolyte or just called Hippo. He's the first boyfriend or pimp of Irma's, okay? And he's in the beginning of the movie. This is one of the scene. This is actually the scene I really love. Eventually, this guy, let's just call him Hippo, played by Bruce Yarnell. Hippo gets into a fight with Nestor, played by Jack Lemmon. And this knockdown, drag down fight is so well done. I think it's just even worth watching just for that fight. Okay. Regarding Bruce Yarnell, he was a Hollywood actor, but basically he's also mainly known for his work in musical theater. He had a really good voice. In 1973, at the age of 37, he died from a plane crash. He was piloting a plane, crashed, died way too young at the age of 37 in 1973. That is Bruce Yarnell. He's very good in this movie as well. He's one of the incidental characters that Eric Holmes was alluding to with Irma La Douce. Any final thoughts regarding Irma La Douce?
One final thought. I looked up the bridge that they show towards the end of this movie, and I looked at the map of Paris, and I figured out it's about 4 or 5 bridges away from the Pont Neuf Bridge, which is the Lovers on the Bridge.
Oh,
so
very cool.
This movie actually takes place not very far from the Lovers on the Bridge.
And that's a filmmaker that we all really love, especially Bruce loves. Leos Carax. Is that how you say his name? Lovers on the Bridge. And what is his new movie coming out? I think starting next month. What is it called? Annette.
Yes.
I was trying to whet Bruce's appetite and say, hey, check out this new song or new trailer. He refuses to watch anything.
I'm not watching it. Nope.
Wow. Have you seen anything on Annette, Eric Holmes? Are you going to watch the trailer? Are you going to watch anything?
No, I'm kind of with Bruce on this, like, because the director of Spotlight we did of Leos Carax.
Yeah.
It's I didn't really know what to expect going in, and I was surprised. So I kind of want to. I think with him at least, I kind of want to maintain that.
Okay.
I just want to see it completely cold.
Okay. And that Annette comes out, I think about several weeks. What happens to me, Bruce, if I don't get us a screening link for Annette? What do you think? You think I'm not doing my job very well?
I don't know. It's at Cannes first, so I don't know how long it's going to take to get screener links available. So it might be a while.
Dude, we're a powerful podcast. You're going to just patch us into the whole thing.
Well, let's get us some damn interviews with Leos then.
Yeah, it's gonna be a holy motor situation with that.
We're gonna tell him he has to wait for the director.
This podcast has raw, untamed power.
we're like, Leos, can you hold? We're talking to the director of Benny Loves You. You're gonna have to just hold for a minute here, buddy.
By the way, Benny Loves You. Benny Loves You. Really worth watching. The Gin. Benny Loves You. The Gin worth watching. What else is worth watching, Bruce? Come on, Eric, before we get speed round.
Well, PG Psycho Gorman.
PG Psycho Gorman. Okay, Eric Holmes. Well, come on, throw it down. Rent-a-Pal. I know Rent-a-Pal. What else?
Rent-a-Pal. And you know what? Fuck, we talked about it earlier today. All Pair Nightmare. Worth watching.
Au Pair Nightmare, and of course one of Eric Holmes' favorites. What is the one with the Lose Flower of Evil?
Yes,
of course.
yes,
Yeah,
Lose
yes.
Flower of Evil.
Lose Flower of Evil. Okay, all right, guys. So that's it. You have oh, you're right. You're shaking the box. Is this where I put Peter Beta's drop? I
don't know.
believe it
Put
is.
it in again.
you know what, Pete? I apologize to you, middle class film class. I'm going to play this drop one more time just for the heck of it. Sorry, listeners. I'll do it.
AOP,
Yes.
AOP. Let's get that drop.
Let's drop it, Pete. And I apologize again. I know you're a guardian of a tortoise, not a turtle. Go for it, Bruce.
Who's in the box? Oh, what's in the box? You lie! No! What's in the fucking box?
All right, what do we got? Let's see. Well, there you go. Now we're getting artistic up in this bitch.
Okay.
Andrew Martin is back.
Yes.
He has suggested a movie I have never seen. Very, very famous movie. Scenes from a Marriage by Ingmar Bergman.
Scenes from a Marriage,
1973.
by Ingmar Bergman. Again, another movie that I am not going to watch with you. Good. Thank you, Bruce, for taking that bullet for Ingmar Bergman. Eric Holmes was a huge Ingmar Bergman fan. Are you going to watch some of this really interesting Ingmar? By the way, it's a horror film, Eric Holmes. It's straight up blood and guts and a lot of action. Are you going to watch Scenes from a Marriage?
I have a rule that I will watch anything that Andrew Martin tells me to. So I mean, granted, he didn't tell me, he told Bruce, but by proxy, I guess I'm going to have to watch that as well. And if he watches Cruella, I'm going to have to watch that too. So
okay,
see what happens.
Well, Andrew, you know what? I should have the same rule for you, except I don't do Bergman's or Rainer Maria Fassbinder's.
Fassbinder.
Fassbinder. I don't know. That's not my. Or who did that Minnesota film? The one with the surreal filmmaker who does the. What's that?
What's his name that did Good Will Hunting? That guy?
No, not Gus Van Sant. No, the surreal filmmaker that
Wim Wenders?
No, not Wim Wenders. You recently saw that, the Winneberg or something, Minnesota or something like that. Remember that really interesting filmmaker? I'm blanking out.
Thomas Winterberg?
No, he's like
really.
a David Lynch kind of filmmakers.
You're talking about
Isabella Rossellini was his,
yeah.
And you saw a couple of
my Winnipeg.
My Winnipeg, the director from My Winnipeg. I forgot his name. I'll look him up right now. Before we go, Eric Holmes, you have anything to say to close out the show?
Is that Guy Madden?
Yes, it. Okay. Very good, Eric Holmes.
I couldn't think of anything to say because I was trying to pull that name out of my head. I'm like, let's pull it out of this fucking shriveled mess in my soul.
Eric Holmes, who would always say, with the inception of movie mainline and find your film, that he's horrible with names. He always comes through once we need him. Thank you. Guy Madden is the man. So that is it. That is it for this week. Any further thoughts, Eric? You want to say anything before you go? Any couple things?
Check out all the movies we talked about. Like even the bad ones are said. There's something good. There's always something good in there. Maybe it might be your cup of tea.
Okay.
And Irma La Douce is a perfect movie.
Irma La Douce is a perfect movie. My personal take is: do not listen to what Eric Holmes says. What every single movie that we said on this podcast, do not listen to us. Don't watch any of these movies. Invest in crypto.com right now, Coinbase.com, Ethereum, and crypto is going off. Just spend your money on crypto. By the way, Bruce, was that a good recommendation for me as a movie podcaster? No,
it should be Cruella coin. You should be doing Cruella coin.
Cruella coin. It's starting at 1 cent right now. It's going to rocket to the moon. Speaking of rocketing us to the moon, Bruce, you have the final thoughts this week on Find Your Film.
I just say don't sleep on Cruella. It's a lot of fun. Come on, you guys, have a little fun out there. You don't all have to be horrifying and everything. I want to talk, but Cruella, it's fun.
Okay, and that is Bruce Purkey's final thoughts, and we are brought to you by Eric Holmes's future production company, Kill Hard. And the first movie that's going to be called is going to start. What is it? Eva something Marie or something like that from Hard Kill.
Yeah, Eva Marie and Tig Notaro and either Shoko Sugi or Scott Adkins. And you know what? Fuck it. Let's just redo Hard Kill right. It'll be Hard Kill, the remake.
Hard Kill, the remake. There you go, folks. That is so interesting. If Eric Holmes, if you get a production deal, don't forget the little people like me and Bruce. That is a great pitch.
Oh, you guys are going to be in it. So
Oh, we're gonna yeah. I'll be
I'll be the guy that tells like, "Don't you kids, don't go into that. Don't go towards that lake. You kids, you don't know what's happening."
no, so we're gonna put you guys in the black suits. You guys are guys in the black suits with the guns, and then Shoko Sugi and Scott Atkins, or that Eva Marie and Tig Notaro are gonna kick the shit out of. And probably Shoko Sugi will get mad at one of you for letting them go and then shoot you.
Okay. Well, I will only do the project if I'm listed as Shokosugi victim number 4. So
there you go.
I'm gonna do that.
That'd be a great title to have.
All right, guys. Thanks so much for listening to us, and we will see you next week on Find Your Film.